Victoria Sterling's fingers wrapped around the cold steel of the gun. $12 billion gone. 20,000 jobs destroyed. Her life's work erased in 6 minutes. The Manhattan skyline blurred through her tears as she raised the barrel to her temple. Then the office door opened. A man in a janitor's uniform stood there holding a mop. His eyes weren't shocked. They were sad, like he'd seen this before, like he knew. "Don't," he said quietly. Victoria's hand trembled. "Get out." "Can't do that, ma'am." What happened next would expose a conspiracy, save an empire, and prove that the man everyone ignored was the only one who could see the truth. "Drop your city name below. Let me see how far across America this story reaches. Now let me show you what really happened that night." The gun felt heavier than Victoria expected. She'd bought it 3 years ago after a death threat from a disgruntled investor. Never fired it. Never even loaded it until tonight. But now, sitting in her darkened office with the financial reports glowing like accusations on 6 different monitors, it seemed like the only rational choice left. $12 billion. Gone. The quantum merger. 2 years of negotiations, sleepless nights, carefully orchestrated moves destroyed in under 6 minutes. Her phone had been ringing non-stop for an hour. Investors, board members, her lawyer using words like liability and criminal negligence. She'd stopped answering after the 20th call. Victoria Sterling had built Sterling Global Technologies from a Columbia dorm room 23 years ago. Now 47, she'd made Forbes' most powerful women list 6 years running. $3 billion in personal wealth. 50,000 employees across 4 continents. She'd never failed at anything. Until tonight. The system breach had been surgical, professional. Someone had planted malware deep in their infrastructure, waited until the merger was hours from closing, then triggered it. Every file encrypted, every backup corrupted, every security protocol shredded like paper. Her CTO had stood in this office 2 hours ago, face-pale hands shaking. "There's nothing we can do, Victoria. Whoever did this, they knew exactly where to hit us. It's over." Over. 23 years. Over. She pressed the gun barrel harder against her temple. The metal was so cold it burned. Her hand shook. One squeeze. That's all it would take. One moment of courage or cowardice, depending on how you looked at it, and she wouldn't have to face the board tomorrow morning. Wouldn't have to watch her stock price crater. Wouldn't have to see the satisfaction in her competitors' eyes. Her father's voice echoed in her head. "Winners never quit, Victoria. And Sterlings are winners." She laughed, a harsh, broken sound that echoed in the empty office. "Sorry, Dad," she whispered. "Guess I'm not a Sterling after all." Her finger tightened on the trigger. The door opened. Victoria spun around, gun still raised, heart hammering. A man stood in the doorway. Blue janitor's uniform. Cleaning cart beside him. Brown hair going gray at the temples. Maybe 40, maybe 50, hard to tell. His eyes were brown and tired and completely calm, like walking in on a woman holding a gun to her head was just another Tuesday. "Get out," Victoria said. Her voice cracked. The man didn't move. "Can't do that, ma'am." "I said get out." "I heard you." He stepped into the office, hands, visible movements slow. "But I can't leave." Victoria's hand trembled violently now. "Do you know what I'm holding?" "Yeah, a Glock 19, 9mm. You've got about 6 pounds of trigger pull before it fires. Right now you're at about 3. She stared at him. "Who the hell are you?" "Marcus Hayes. I mop your floors." "Well, Marcus Hayes, you need to turn around and walk away. This doesn't concern you." "You're right, it doesn't." He moved closer, still, slow, still calm. "But I'm not walking away." "Why not?" "Because 6 years ago I stood in my bathroom, holding a bottle of pills with my 3-year-old daughter sleeping in the next room. I'd just buried my wife. Had $300,000 in medical debt. No job, no future. And I thought my kid would be better off without a failure like me. Victoria's finger eased off the trigger slightly. What stopped you? She woke up, called for me. Daddy, I'm thirsty. Just that. Just those 3 words. Marcus stopped about 10 feet away. I put the pills down and got her a glass of water. And I realized something. What? That the worst day of your life isn't the end of your life, it just feels like it. Victoria lowered the gun slowly. Her whole body was shaking now. You don't understand. I didn't just lose money, I lost everything. My company, my reputation. 20,000 people are going to lose their jobs because I failed to protect them. So fix it. She laughed bitterly. Fix it. My entire IT department spent 4 hours trying to fix it. It can't be fixed. Let me see. What? Marcus gestured at the monitors. Let me see what happened. You're a janitor. I used to be other things. He moved to the desk, eyes scanning the screens. His expression changed something sharp and focused, replacing the calm. This is a dual vector attack. External penetration plus internal corruption. Victoria set the gun down on the desk carefully. How do you know that? Because I used to write code like this, back when I worked at Fortress Digital. Fortress Digital. She knew the name. One of the top cybersecurity firms in the country. You worked there, senior analyst, until my wife got sick. Victoria studied him, really looked at him for the first time. The worn uniform that had been washed too many times. The lines around his eyes that came from grief, not age. The way his fingers hovered over her keyboard like a pianist approaching an instrument they hadn't played in years. You're telling me you can fix this. I'm telling me I can try. Marcus met her eyes. But I need full access. Every system, every file, every security protocol. And I need you to trust me. I don't know you. No. But you've got 2 choices. Put that gun to your head and pull the trigger. Or let me try to save what you built. He paused. Your call. Victoria looked at the gun. Looked at the monitors. Looked at this stranger who'd walked into her darkest moment like some kind of broken angel. She pulled a keycard from her desk drawer and handed it to him. If you're lying, if this is some kind of con, I will destroy you. Understood. Marcus swiped the card. The computer unlocked. He sat down, fingers already moving across the keyboard with frightening speed. Victoria watched him work, watched the way his entire body changed. Shoulders, straightening, eyes sharpening, that exhausted resignation replaced by something electric. Talk to me, she said. Someone planted this months ago. They've been inside your system, learning it, mapping it, waiting for the perfect moment to strike. His fingers never stopped moving. Whoever did this knew exactly what they were doing. But they made mistakes. What kind of mistakes? The kind that tell me they're arrogant. They assumed your backup servers were integrated with your primary network. Are they? No. Company policy keeps them separate. Marcus smiled, quick and sharp. Then we've got a chance. Pull up your chair. This is going to take a while. Victoria sat beside him. How long? 6 hours, maybe 8. The merger closes in 10 hours. Then I better not screw this up. He worked. Victoria watched, barely understanding half of what she was seeing, code cascading across screens. System diagnostics running, files being accessed and analyzed at dizzying speed. Marcus didn't speak except to ask occasional questions about her infrastructure, her security protocols, her team. At some point she brought coffee. He drank it without tasting it. At some point she asked, Your daughter, how old is she now? 7, Emma. She's staying with our neighbor tonight. You're going to miss putting her to bed. Yeah. His voice was soft. But she'll understand. She's good at understanding things she shouldn't have to. What happened to your wife? Marcus's fingers slowed for just a moment. Pancreatic cancer, stage 4. We had 18 months from diagnosis to... He trailed off. I quit my job to take care of her. Spent every dime we had on treatments that didn't work. After she died, I couldn't get hired anywhere. 3 years out of the industry might as well be 30 in tech. So you became a janitor. It was the only job that let me be home for Emma. Drop her off at school, pick her up, make her dinner, help with homework. The money's terrible and the work's not exactly fulfilling, but I get to be her dad. That matters more than my ego. Victoria was quiet for a moment. I don't have kids. I know. How? You're here at midnight on a Tuesday. No ring on your finger. No pictures on your desk, except the one of you and your team at some conference. Marcus glanced at her. You built an empire instead of a family. You think that was a mistake? I think everyone makes choices. No judgment from me. But you chose family over career. I chose my daughter over my ego. That's different. His fingers were flying again. Your career is who you are. My career was what I did. When I had to pick between who I was and what my kid needed, it wasn't really a choice at all. Victoria thought about her mother, who died alone in a hospice in Queens while Victoria was in Tokyo closing a deal. Thought about the voicemail she'd gotten Mom passed this morning. Funeral is Thursday. And how she'd listened to it on the plane ride home, felt nothing, and gone straight into another meeting. I wasn't there when my mother died, she said quietly. Marcus looked at her. Didn't say anything. I was in Singapore, signing a contract I thought would change everything. My sister called 17 times. I didn't answer because I was in negotiations. Victoria's voice cracked. By the time I landed, she'd been dead for 6 hours. Did you love her? What? Your mother. Did you love her? Of course I loved her. Then you made a mistake. Doesn't mean you're a bad person. Just means you're human. Marcus turned back to the screen. We all have regrets. Question is whether we learn from them or let them eat us alive. At 4:37 a.m., something changed on the monitors. At 4:38 a.m., Marcus said, "Got you." At 4:39 a.m., he turned to Victoria with an expression she couldn't quite read. I found the encryption key. I can unlock your data. Then do it. In a minute. Marcus pulled up another window lines of code that meant nothing to Victoria. First, you need to see this. See what? Proof that someone inside your company did this. Someone with administrative access. Someone you trust. Victoria's blood went cold. Show me. Marcus pointed at the screen. See this signature? That's an internal admin account. The malware was planted 4 months ago from inside your building. Then last night someone activated it remotely, but they routed the signal through your own servers to cover their tracks. Who? I don't know yet, but I can find out. He looked at her. Question is, do you want me to? Victoria thought about her team, her executives, people she'd worked with for years, people she'd trusted with everything. Yes, she said. Find them. Marcus nodded and kept working. At 6:47 a.m., the system rebooted. At 6:48 a.m., data began flowing back into the server's files, databases, security protocols, everything. At 6:49 a.m., Victoria Sterling's empire came back to life. She stood there staring at the monitors, barely breathing, barely believing. You did it. Marcus leaned back in the chair, exhausted. Yeah. You saved my company. For now. But whoever did this is still out there, and they're going to try again. Victoria turned to him. This man in a janitor's uniform, who'd walked into her office at the worst moment of her life and done what nobody else could do. Marcus Hayes, what do you want? What do I want? I'm offering you a job, Director of Cybersecurity. You'll report directly to me. You name your salary. Marcus was quiet for a long moment. I want normal hours. I want to be home for dinner with my daughter. I want healthcare that'll actually cover things. And I want—" he trailed off. "What? I want to matter again. I want to do work that means something." Victoria extended her hand. "Deal." Marcus shook it. His palm was calloused from pushing mops and scrubbing floors. "When do I start?" "Right now, because we need to find whoever did this before they realize we fixed it." Marcus stood up, swaying slightly from exhaustion. "I need to call my neighbor, let her know I'm okay. And I need to see Emma before she goes to school." "Go. Be with your daughter. Come back at noon." Victoria paused. "And Marcus? Thank you. For earlier. For not letting you pull the trigger." "Yeah." Marcus smiled tiredly. 6 years ago, my neighbor Mrs. Chen stopped me from swallowing those pills. Told me Emma needed me even if I didn't think I was worth needing. Guess I'm just paying it forward." He left. Victoria stood alone in her office as dawn broke over Manhattan. The city was waking up millions of people starting another day, completely unaware that one man had just saved 20,000 jobs and $12 billion. She picked up the gun from her desk, ejected the magazine, cleared the chamber, and locked it in her safe. Then she called her assistant. "Cancel the emergency board meeting. The merger is back on. And get me everything we have on our IT department, personnel files, access logs, everything." "Ma'am, it's 6 in the morning." "Now, Jennifer?" Victoria hung up and turned back to the monitors. Somewhere in those millions of lines of code was the name of the person who'd tried to destroy her, and she was going to find them. But what Victoria didn't know, what Marcus hadn't told her, because he wasn't sure yet, was that the attack signature matched code he'd seen before. Code written by someone at Fortress Digital. Someone he'd worked with. Someone who knew exactly how good he was and how dangerous it would be if he ever got involved. The person who'd destroyed Victoria's company hadn't just been trying to steal $12 billion. They'd been trying to send Marcus Hayes a message. And now that he'd answered, the real game could begin. Marcus made it home by 7:30. The apartment was quiet, except for Mrs. Chen's television playing softly in the living room. Emma was still asleep, curled up on the couch, with her stuffed elephant clutched against her chest. Mrs. Chen looked up from her coffee, eyebrows raised. "You look terrible." "Long night." Marcus pulled out his wallet, but she waved him off. "Keep it. You can pay me double next time." She stood gathering her sweater. "That girl asked about you 3 times before she finally fell asleep. Said you promised to help her with her science project." Guilt twisted in Marcus's chest. "I know. I'll make it up to her." Mrs. Chen paused at the door. "Marcus, whatever you're doing, whatever's changed, I can see it in your face. Just don't forget what matters most." After she left, Marcus sat on the edge of the couch and touched Emma's shoulder gently. "Hey, princess. Time to wake up." Emma's eyes fluttered open. "Daddy." "Right here." She sat up fast, arms wrapping around his neck. "You were gone all night. I was worried." "I know, baby. I'm sorry. Something came up at work." Emma pulled back, studying his face with those serious brown eyes that were so much like Sarah's. "Are you in trouble?" "No. Actually, something good happened." Marcus smoothed her hair back. "You know how Daddy used to work with computers before you were born? Before Mommy got sick?" "Yeah. Well, last night I got to do that again. And I helped someone who really needed it." Emma's face brightened. "Like a superhero." Marcus laughed. "Not exactly. But I did get offered a new job. A better one." "Does that mean you won't clean floors anymore?" "That's right." "Good." Emma's voice dropped to a whisper like she was sharing a secret. "Some kids at school said their parents don't want them playing with me because my daddy's just a janitor. Madison said her mom said we're poor." The words hit Marcus like a fist to the stomach. He'd known kids could be cruel, but hearing it from his 7-year-old daughter, seeing the shame in her eyes, that was different. "Listen to me." He took her small face in his hands. "There is nothing wrong with being a janitor. Nothing wrong with any honest work. You understand? Emma nodded, but her eyes were wet. But you're right that things are going to change. Starting today, I'm going to be doing the kind of work I'm really good at. The kind that pays better and means I can be home more. Would you like that? Will we still live here? For now, but maybe not forever. Emma threw her arms around him again. I don't care where we live as long as you're not sad anymore. Marcus held her tight, blinking back tears. I'm not sad, Princess. Not anymore. By 8 o'clock, Emma was dressed and eating cereal while Marcus stood in front of his closet, staring at clothes he hadn't worn in 6 years. The shirts were outdated. The one suit he owned was shiny at the elbows and smelled like mothballs. He couldn't walk into Sterling Global looking like this. He checked his bank account on his phone. $347. He'd need at least half of that for Mrs. Chen and groceries this week. His phone buzzed. Unknown number. Hello? Marcus Hayes. A woman's voice, crisp and professional. Yes. This is Jennifer Park, Ms. Sterling's executive assistant. She asked me to inform you that she's arranged for you to meet with our corporate outfitter this morning at 9. Everything will be provided: suits, shirts, shoes, whatever you need. The address is being texted to you now. Marcus stared at the phone. She didn't have to. Ms. Sterling was very clear. You're to arrive at headquarters by noon wearing something appropriate for a director-level position. Is that understood? Yes. Thank you. One more thing. Ms. Sterling also wanted me to tell you that your salary will be deposited weekly until we can resolve the debt situation you mentioned. She said you'd understand. The line went dead. Marcus stood there holding the phone, feeling something he hadn't felt in years, the sensation that someone was actually looking out for him. Emma appeared in the doorway. Who was that? My new boss. Is she nice? Marcus thought about Victoria Sterling holding a gun to her head, thought about the brokenness in her eyes that had looked so much like his own. Yeah, I think she might be. The corporate outfitter turned out to be a boutique in Midtown that Marcus would never have dared to enter on his own. A man named Stefan took one look at him, frowned, and said, "We have work to do." 2 hours later, Marcus barely recognized himself in the mirror. Charcoal suit that actually fit, white dress shirt, dark blue tie, leather shoes that didn't have scuff marks. Stefan had even convinced him to get a haircut at the salon next door. Better, Stefan said, stepping back to admire his work. You look like someone who matters. Marcus almost laughed. 6 hours ago, he'd been pushing a mop cart. Now he was staring at a stranger in expensive clothes who looked like he belonged in a boardroom. His phone buzzed again. Victoria. Are you ready? As I'll ever be. Good. Because I found something. Get here as fast as you can. Marcus arrived at Sterling Global at 11:45. The lobby receptionist did a double take when he gave his name. Clearly she'd seen him before, but not looking like this. She handed him a temporary badge and directed him to the 73rd floor. The elevator ride felt longer than it should have. Marcus's heart hammered against his ribs. 6 years of pushing a mop, and now he was about to walk into the executive suite as the director of cybersecurity. Part of him wanted to laugh at the absurdity. Part of him wanted to throw up. The doors opened. Jennifer Park was waiting, a slim woman in her 30s with sharp eyes and an even sharper suit. Mr. Hayes, this way, please. She led him past rows of glass-walled offices where people worked at standing desks or sat in meetings. A few looked up as he passed. None of them recognized him. Why would they? Janitors were invisible. Victoria's office was at the end of the hall. Jennifer knocked once and opened the door. Victoria stood at her desk looking nothing like the broken woman from last night. Her makeup was perfect. Her suit was impeccable. Her eyes were steel. Marcus, good. Close the door. Jennifer left. Marcus stepped inside, suddenly aware of how enormous this office was, bigger than his entire apartment. You look better, Victoria said. Stefan's doing. He's the best. Sit down. We need to talk. Marcus sat in one of the leather chairs facing her desk. Victoria pulled up something on her computer and turned the monitor so he could see. After you left, I had Jennifer pull access logs for every administrative account in the company. I wanted to see who was working unusual hours, who accessed systems they shouldn't have, anything that stood out. And, look at this. She pointed at a series of entries. 4 months ago, someone logged into our secure server room at 2 in the morning, used their badge to get past security, stayed for 47 minutes. Who? Victoria's jaw tightened. Lauren Chen, my chief technology officer. Marcus leaned forward, studying the data. That's the person who told you the system couldn't be fixed. Yes. Have you confronted her? Not yet. I wanted you to see this first. Victoria pulled up another screen: emails, internal messages, file transfers. I've been going through her communications. Most of it looks normal, but there are gaps. Times when she should have been responding to critical issues but wasn't. And look at this. She opened an email dated 3 days ago. The sender was listed as an external consultant, someone named David Park from a firm called Apex Dynamics. The subject line read, "Final payment processed." Marcus felt his blood go cold. Apex Dynamics. That's not a real company. How do you know? Because I do. Marcus pulled out his phone and did a quick search. No website, no corporate filings, no public presence at all. It's a shell. Victoria sat back in her chair. So Lauren's been taking payments from a fake company while someone systematically dismantled my security infrastructure. It looks that way. I want to fire her, right now. Have security escort her out of the building. Don't. Marcus met her eyes. If you do that, we lose our chance to find out who's behind this. Lauren's not the mastermind, she's the access point. Someone else is pulling the strings. So what do? We set a trap. Make her think the system is still vulnerable. See who she contacts. Victoria was quiet for a moment, then nodded slowly. How? We need to create a fake vulnerability. Something that looks real enough to make whoever hired Lauren think they can hit you again. Then we watch who she tells. That's risky. Everything worth doing is. Marcus stood up. But first I need to meet with your IT team. See what they know, what they missed, who I can trust. I'll have Jennifer set it up. Victoria stood as well, came around the desk. Marcus, I need to know, are you absolutely certain you can do this? No, he said honestly, but I'm certain I'm going to try. Something shifted in her expression, respect maybe, or recognition. That's good enough for me. The IT department was on the 68th floor, a sprawling open space filled with monitors and the soft hum of servers. 23 people worked there, ranging from fresh college graduates to veterans who'd been with the company since the beginning. They all stopped and stared when Marcus walked in with Victoria. Everyone listen up. Victoria's voice cut through the ambient noise like a knife. This is Marcus Hayes, your new director of cybersecurity. He reports directly to me. Whatever he needs, you give him. Whatever he asks, you answer. Is that clear? Scattered nods, confused faces. Marcus could see the questions in their eyes. Who is this guy? Where did he come from? Why is the CEO personally introducing him? Marcus, the floor is yours. Victoria stepped back. Marcus scanned the room, recognizing a few faces from his late-night cleaning rounds. None of them recognized him. I know you all did everything you could last night. I'm not here to second-guess your work. I'm here to make sure what happened never happens again. A young woman in the front raised her hand tentatively. Are we in trouble? No, but someone in this company is. Marcus let that sink in. Last night's attack was sophisticated, but it was also an inside job. Someone with administrative access planted malware in our systems months ago. Someone we trust betrayed us. The room erupted in murmurs. Victoria held up a hand for silence. We're going to find them, Marcus continued. But I need your help. I need to know everything, who had access to what, who was working, when any unusual behavior you noticed, anything that didn't feel right. An older man in the back spoke up. Lauren was acting strange the last few weeks. Distracted. Jumpy. Lauren Chen. Marcus kept his voice neutral. Yeah, she's usually on top of everything, but lately. He shrugged. I don't know. It felt off. Others nodded in agreement. Marcus filed that away. Here's what we're going to do, he said. I need a small team, 3 people I can trust absolutely. We're going to audit every line of code, every access point, every vulnerability in our system. The rest of you will continue normal operations, but you'll be watching. If you see anything unusual, anything that doesn't feel right, you report it directly to me. Not through channels, not through your supervisors. To me. A guy in his 20s raised his hand. What if we're the ones who messed up? What if we missed something obvious? Marcus looked at him. Then we learn from it. I'm not interested in blame. I'm interested in solutions. He spent the next hour meeting one-on-one with each team member, getting a feel for who they were, what they knew, what they could do. By 1 o'clock, he'd identified his core team, David Chang, a senior systems analyst who'd been with the company for 8 years. Sarah Kim, a junior developer with a sharp eye for patterns. And Robert Walsh, a grizzled network specialist who'd worked in military intelligence before joining Sterling. They gathered in a small conference room. Marcus closed the door. What I'm about to tell you stays between us. Understood? 3 nods. Lauren Chen is our leak. We have evidence she's been taking payments from an external source in exchange for access to our systems, but we don't know who hired her or why. Our job is to find out. Sarah's eyes went wide. Lauren, but she's the CTO. She's been here forever. Which is exactly why she's the perfect asset, Marcus said. She had access to everything, knew all our protocols, could move around without raising suspicion. David leaned back in his chair. So what's the play? We create a honeypot, a fake vulnerability that looks real enough to draw them out. When Lauren passes the information along to her contact, we'll be watching. Robert frowned. That's a long shot. You have a better idea. Silence. Okay then. David, I need you to map out our entire network architecture, every entry point, every system, every potential vulnerability. Sarah, you're going to help me write the code for our fake exploit. Robert, you're going to monitor all external communications, email, phone, everything. If Lauren makes contact with anyone outside the company, I want to know about it. They worked through the afternoon and into the evening. Marcus lost track of time, lost himself in the rhythm of code and problem solving that he'd thought was gone forever. It felt like coming home after years in exile. At 6 o'clock, his phone buzzed. Emma. Daddy, when are you coming home? Soon, Princess. I'm sorry. My first day ran long. Mrs. Chen made mac and cheese. She says you owe her $20. Marcus smiled. Tell her I'll pay her tomorrow. And Emma, I love you. Love you too, Daddy. Don't work too late. He hung up and found Victoria standing in the doorway of the conference room. Go home, she said. Be with your daughter. We're not done here. You're no good to me, exhausted, and more importantly, that little girl needs her father. Victoria's expression softened. I made the mistake of choosing work over family once. I won't let you make the same one. Marcus saved his work and stood up. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. Tomorrow we spring the trap. That night, Marcus tucked Emma into bed and read her 3 chapters of her favorite book about a girl who traveled to different planets. When she finally fell asleep, he sat at their tiny kitchen table with his old laptop and checked his work email, something he'd never had before today. There were already 47 unread messages. Questions from the IT team, meeting requests, security briefings. He was about to close the laptop when a new email appeared. The sender was listed as a friend. Subject line, you should have stayed invisible. Marcus's blood went cold. He opened it. The message was short. You made a mistake getting involved, Marcus Hayes. You have a daughter, a 7-year-old who walks to school every morning at 7:45, Who plays in the park on Saturdays? Who loves strawberry ice cream? It would be a shame if something happened to her. The laptop screen blurred. Marcus's hands were shaking so hard he could barely type. He forwarded the email to Victoria with one word, threat. 60 seconds later, his phone rang. "I'm sending a security team to your apartment right now," Victoria said without preamble. "Don't argue. Don't tell me it's too much. This is happening. They threatened Emma. I know. And they just made their biggest mistake." Her voice was ice. "Nobody threatens a child. Not in my company. Not on my watch." "Victoria, maybe I should back off. If something happened to my daughter because of this, nothing is going to happen to your daughter. I promise you that." A pause. "Marcus, do you trust me?" He thought about Victoria holding that gun, thought about her sitting beside him all night while he worked, thought about the way she'd looked at Emma's picture on his phone and said, "She's beautiful." "Yes," he said, "I trust you." "Then trust me now. We're going to keep Emma safe, and we're going to find whoever sent that email and make them regret ever hearing your name." Within 20 minutes, 2 security guards arrived at Marcus's apartment, a man and a woman, both ex-military, both carrying themselves like they knew how to handle trouble. Victoria had also sent a lawyer who explained that starting tomorrow, Emma would be escorted to and from school by private security. Mrs. Chen would be compensated for any inconvenience, and Marcus's apartment building would have 24-hour surveillance. "This is too much," Marcus said. The lawyer, a severe woman named Patricia Whitmore, looked at him over her reading glasses. "Mr. Hayes, Ms. Sterling has given explicit instructions. Your family's safety is the company's top priority. If you have objections, you can discuss them with her directly." After they left, Marcus stood in Emma's doorway watching her sleep. The stuffed elephant was clutched in her arms. Her breathing was soft and even. She had no idea that someone had threatened her. No idea that her father had just made her a target by trying to do the right thing. Sarah's voice echoed in his head. "You made a mistake getting involved." Maybe he had. Maybe he should have walked past Victoria's office that night, kept his head down, stayed invisible. Maybe that would have been smarter. But then, he thought about Victoria's finger on that trigger. Thought about 20,000 people who would have lost their jobs. Thought about the kind of man he wanted to be for his daughter. No. He'd made the right choice, even if it was the dangerous one. His phone buzzed. Text from Victoria. "Get some sleep. Tomorrow we go to war." Marcus looked at Emma one more time, then went to bed. But he didn't sleep. He lay there in the darkness, listening to the sounds of the city outside, thinking about the email, thinking about the person who'd sent it. They knew about Emma, knew her schedule, knew what she liked. That meant they'd been watching for a while. That meant they were professional. And that meant Marcus was going to have to be better. At 3 a.m, he got out of bed and opened his laptop. He pulled up the email again, studying the headers tracing the digital signature. It had been routed through multiple proxies, encrypted, bounced across servers in 5 different countries. Whoever sent it knew how to cover their tracks. But they'd made one mistake. One tiny, almost imperceptible error in the routing protocol. The kind of mistake only someone who'd learned their craft at a specific place would make. Marcus's hands froze over the keyboard. He knew that signature. He'd seen it before. Years ago, when he was at Fortress Digital. The person who'd sent that email hadn't just worked in cybersecurity. They'd worked with Marcus, had been his colleague, maybe even his friend. His phone rang. Victoria again. "You're awake," she said. "How did you know?" "Because I am too. I've been going through Lauren's communications. Marcus, there's something you need to see." "I'm looking at something too. The email thread, I think I know who sent it." A sharp intake of breath. "Who?" "Someone from my old company. Someone I used to trust." Marcus closed his eyes. "Victoria, this isn't just about your merger or corporate espionage. This is personal. Someone's been waiting for me to surface again. And now that I have, they're not going to stop until I'm gone. Silence on the other end. Then we make sure you're not the one who disappears. Marcus was at Victoria's office by 5 in the morning. She looked like she hadn't slept either, still wearing yesterday's clothes, hair pulled back in a messy ponytail. 2 laptops sat open on her desk screens filled with data. "Coffee?" she asked, gesturing to a pot that looked like it had been brewing for hours. "Please." She poured him a cup. Her hands were steady, but Marcus could see the tension in her shoulders, the tight line of her jaw. "Tell me about your old company, Fortress Digital." Marcus sat down, wrapping his hands around the warm mug. "I worked there for 9 years. Started as a junior analyst, worked my way up to senior. We handled high-level security for Fortune 500 companies, government contractors, financial institutions. The best in the business." "Who did you work with?" "About 40 people in my division. We were close. You had to be in that line of work. Late nights, high-pressure lives depending on your code being perfect. Any of them stand out, anyone who might have a reason to come after you." Marcus thought back. Faces flickered through his memory, people he'd trusted, laughed with, relied on. There was this one guy, James Chen, brilliant programmer. Maybe the best I ever worked with. We were friends, or at least I thought we were. "What happened?" "I got promoted over him, made senior analyst when we were both up for the position. He didn't take it well, but I figured he'd get over it. Then Sarah got sick and I left and—" Marcus trailed off. "I heard he quit Fortress a few months after I did. Nobody knew where he went." Victoria pulled up something on her laptop. "James Chen. Is this him?" She turned the screen. Marcus felt his stomach drop. It was James, older, harder, but definitely him. And next to his photo was a corporate profile. "Apex Dynamics," Marcus read. "Chief Security Officer." "The shell company that was paying Lauren," Victoria said quietly. "It's not a shell. It's a front. James Chen created it 5 years ago. On paper, it's a legitimate security consulting firm. In reality, it's been systematically targeting companies and extracting corporate intelligence." "How did you find this?" "I hired a private investigator. Cost me $50,000 in 6 hours, but it was worth it." She pulled up more files, bank records, communication logs, surveillance photos. "James Chen has been running a sophisticated corporate espionage operation for years. He plants people inside companies, waits for the right moment, then strikes. Your company's attack wasn't about the merger, Marcus. It was about drawing you out." Marcus set down his coffee. His hands were shaking. "He's been waiting for me." "It looks that way." "But why I haven't seen him in 6 years? Haven't thought about him in longer than that." Victoria leaned back in her chair. "When you got that promotion over him, you didn't just take his job, you took his identity. In his mind, you're the reason his life went off track. And now that you've resurfaced, now that you've proven you're still better than him, he can't let that stand." "So he threatened my daughter?" "Yes." Marcus stood up, paced to the window. The sun was starting to rise over Manhattan, painting the buildings in shades of orange and gold. Somewhere out there, James Chen was watching, waiting. And Emma was sleeping peacefully in their apartment, protected by guards she didn't know she needed. "What do we do?" he asked. "We spring the trap like we planned, but now we know who we're catching." Victoria stood too, came to stand beside him. "Marcus, I need you to understand something. This man is dangerous. He's not just a hacker or a corporate spy. He's someone who's built his entire life around destroying yours. If we go after him, he's going to fight back with everything he has." "I know. And you're still willing to do this?" Marcus thought about Emma asking why kids at school said mean things about her dad. Thought about Sarah in that hospital bed making him promise to protect their daughter no matter what. Thought about the gun in Victoria's hand and the choice he'd made to stop her from pulling the trigger. "I'm not just willing," he said. "I'm ready." They spent the next 3 hours building the trap. David, Sarah, and Robert joined them at 6:30, and together they created what looked like a catastrophic security flaw in Sterling's system. an encrypted backdoor that appeared to give complete access to the company's financial records and merger documents. It was elegant, believable, and completely fake. Lauren will see this during her morning system check, David said, pulling up the code. If she's reporting to Chen, she'll pass it along immediately. And we'll be watching when she does, Robert added. He'd set up monitoring equipment that would track every communication Lauren made: phone calls, emails, text messages, everything. Sarah looked worried. What if she doesn't take the bait? She will, Marcus said. Chen's been waiting 6 years for another chance at me. He won't be able to resist. Victoria checked her watch. Lauren gets in at 8. That gives us 90 minutes. Marcus, you need to go home. Check on Emma. Make sure she gets to school safely. I should be here when... Your daughter needs to see you, needs to know you're okay. Go. We'll handle the surveillance. Marcus wanted to argue, but Victoria was right. He'd been gone when Emma woke up this morning. She'd be worried, confused. He couldn't let this consume him so completely that he forgot why he was doing it in the first place. The apartment was quiet when he got back. Chen was making breakfast, while Emma sat at the table doing homework, her tongue poking out in concentration. She looked up when Marcus walked in and her face lit up. Daddy, you're home. He scooped her up, held her tight. Just for a little bit, Princess. I wanted to see you before school. Mrs. Chen said there are new people watching our building. She said you arranged it because of your important new job. Marcus glanced at Mrs. Chen, who gave him a meaningful look. That's right. Just some extra security. Nothing to worry about. Emma pulled back, studying his face with those two wise eyes. Are you in danger? No, baby. I promise I'm safe. But you're worried. I can tell. Sometimes Marcus forgot how perceptive she was, how much she'd learned about reading emotions from watching Sarah fade away in that hospital. I'm just being careful. There's a problem at work I need to solve, and some people aren't happy about it. But I'm not in danger, and neither are you. Okay. She didn't look entirely convinced. Will you pick me up from school today? I'll try. If I can't, one of the security people will. But I promise I'll be home for dinner. Deal. Deal. He walked her to school, the security team following at a discreet distance. Other parents gave them curious looks, but Marcus ignored them. At the entrance, Emma hugged him extra tight. Be careful, Daddy. Always am, Princess. He watched her disappear into the building, that little girl with Sarah's eyes and a strength that never ceased to amaze him. Then he turned back to the security team. Nothing happens to her. I don't care what it takes. The older guard, a man named Thomas, with gray hair and steady eyes, nodded. We've got her, sir. I have 2 kids of my own. Nobody gets past me. Marcus believed him. He had to. Back at Sterling Global, the trap was set. Lauren Chen arrived at 8:07, coffee in hand, looking tired but composed. Marcus watched from a conference room down the hall as she settled at her desk, logged into her computer, and began her morning routine. She's checking system logs now, Robert said, monitoring her screen remotely. Any second. Lauren's fingers froze on the keyboard. She leaned forward, eyes widening. Then she picked up her phone. Got her, Robert said. She's texting someone, routing through an encrypted app, but we're tracking it. Victoria leaned over his shoulder. Can you see what she's saying? Give me a second. Robert's fingers flew across his keyboard. Okay. Message reads, found something big. Backdoor access to everything. Looks real. Can you verify? Marcus felt his pulse quicken. That's it. She's contacting Chen. They waited. 30 seconds. 45. Then Lauren's phone buzzed with a response. Reply says, send details. We'll analyze and confirm. Good work. Robert looked up. The number traces back to a burner phone, but the signal originated from a location in Lower Manhattan. Want me to pinpoint it? Do it, Victoria said. While Robert worked, Lauren was already moving. She pulled up the fake vulnerability Marcus had created, copied the code onto a USB drive, and slipped it into her purse. Then she stood, grabbed her coat, and headed for the elevator. "She's leaving," David said. "Should we stop her?" "No," Marcus said. "Let her go. We need to see where she takes that drive." Victoria was already on her phone. "I'm calling my private investigator. He'll follow her." 10 minutes later, they had confirmation. Lauren was in a cab heading downtown. The investigator, a former NYPD detective named Frank Russo, was 3 cars behind her. Marcus paced the conference room, every muscle tense. This was it. After 6 years of being invisible, he was about to come face to face with the man who'd made that invisibility necessary. "Got the location," Robert said. "The burner phone signal is coming from an office building on Canal Street, 9th floor, company listed as Apex Dynamics." "He's not even hiding," Victoria said. "He wants us to know where he is." "It's a trap," Marcus said. "He knows we're coming." "Probably, but we don't have a choice." She looked at him. "Are you ready for this?" Marcus thought about James Chen. Brilliant, arrogant, always needing to prove he was the smartest person in the room. Thought about the promotion that had ended their friendship. Thought about Emma's face when she asked if he was in danger. "Yeah," he said. "I'm ready." They took Victoria's car, a black Mercedes, with a driver who looked more like a bodyguard. Frank called with an update. Lauren had entered the building on Canal Street 15 minutes ago and hadn't come out. The 9th floor appeared to be mostly empty except for Apex Dynamics. "She's probably meeting with Chen right now," Marcus said. "Showing him the vulnerability. He'll analyze it, realize it's fake, and then he'll know we're onto him," Victoria finished. "Which is what we want. Draw him out. Make him make a mistake." They parked 2 blocks away and approached on foot. The building was old but well maintained, the kind of place that rented office space to small firms and consultants. The lobby was empty except for a security guard who barely glanced at them as they signed in and headed for the elevator. On the 9th floor, the hallway was silent. 3 office suites, all with frosted glass doors. Apex Dynamics was at the end. Marcus's heart was pounding so hard he could hear it in his ears. Victoria put a hand on his arm. "You don't have to do this. We can call the police, let them handle it." "No. This is between me and James. It always has been." He opened the door. The office was small, neat, almost sterile. A reception area with no receptionist. A closed door leading to what was probably the main workspace. And sitting in one of the visitor chairs, as if she'd been waiting for them, was Lauren Chen. She looked up, and there was no surprise in her eyes. Just resignation. "He said you'd figure it out." Victoria stepped forward. "Where is he?" "Inside, waiting for you." Lauren stood slowly. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. I didn't want it to go this far." "Then why did you do it?" Marcus asked. "Because he promised me something I wanted, something I couldn't get here." Her voice was bitter. "Do you know what it's like to work for someone for 15 years and watch younger, less experienced people get promoted over you, to be invisible no matter how good your work is?" Marcus felt something twist in his chest. "Yeah, actually, I do." Lauren laughed without humor. "I suppose you would. But unlike you, I wasn't willing to accept it." She gestured to the inner door. "He's waiting. And Marcus, he's not the person you remember." She walked past them and out into the hallway. Victoria started to follow, but Marcus caught her arm. "Let her go. We'll deal with her later." They stood in front of the inner door. Marcus could hear sounds from inside, the hum of computers, the soft click of a keyboard. He reached for the handle. The office was bigger than expected, lined with monitors and servers. And sitting at a desk in the center was James Chen. He looked older, harder. His hair was shorter, streaked with gray, but his eyes were the same sharp, calculating, always measuring. He smiled when he saw Marcus. "There he is, the ghost of Fortress Digital." "Hello, James." You know I've been waiting for this moment for 6 years. Ever since you vanished after your wife died. I kept tabs on you, knew you were working as a janitor, knew you were struggling. Part of me wanted to reach out, offer you a job. But another part of me... He stood up slowly. Another part of me wanted you to suffer, wanted you to understand what it felt like to have everything taken away. I didn't take anything from you, Marcus said. I got promoted because I earned it. You got promoted because you were better at playing politics, better at making yourself visible to the right people. James's voice was cold. I was always the better programmer, Marcus. You know it. I know it. Everyone at Fortress knew it. But you had that charm, that likability. You made people trust you. And you made people afraid of you. James's smile widened. Fear is just another form of respect. Victoria stepped forward. You orchestrated the attack on my company, hired Lauren to sabotage our systems, threatened a 7-year-old child. For what revenge? Not just revenge. James pulled up something on his monitor. I've been building this operation for 5 years. Infiltrating companies, extracting intelligence, selling it to the highest bidder. Your merger with Quantum was worth $12 billion. I had buyers lined up who would have paid $200 million for the proprietary data in your systems. But you didn't get it, Marcus said, because I stopped you. Yes, you did. James's expression darkened. Which brings us to now. You've walked into my office in my territory thinking you've won. But Marcus, you've always been naive. Do you really think I'd let you expose me? Let you destroy everything I've built? Marcus felt Victoria tense beside him. What are you talking about? The USB drive Lauren gave me. The fake vulnerability you created, I knew it was a trap the moment I saw it. The encryption signature was one you used to use at Fortress, distinctive, recognizable. You thought you were being clever, but you were just being predictable. So why let us come here? Victoria demanded. James hit a key on his computer. Screens filled with live feeds. Emma's school, Marcus's apartment building, Victoria's home. Because while you were focused on me, my people were getting into position. I have teams ready to move on your daughter Marcus, on your neighbors, on everyone you care about. One call from me, and they all disappear. Marcus's blood went cold. You wouldn't. Try me. James leaned back in his chair. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to walk away, both of you. You're going to tell your security teams to stand down. Tell your investigator to drop the case and pretend this never happened. In exchange, I'll leave Emma alone. I'll leave Victoria's company alone. And we'll all go back to our separate lives. And if we don't, Victoria's voice was steel. Then I make one call and your daughter becomes a statistic, Marcus. Another missing child in New York City. The police will investigate. They'll never find her, and you'll spend the rest of your life knowing it was your fault. Marcus couldn't breathe. The room felt too small, too hot. He could see Emma's face, hear her voice, asking if he was in danger. He'd promised her he was safe, promised her nothing would happen. You have 60 seconds to decide, James said. After that, I make the call. Victoria grabbed Marcus's arm. Her grip was tight, urgent. Don't give in to him. He'll hurt Emma. He's bluffing. Are you willing to bet my daughter's life on that? James was counting down. 45 seconds. Marcus's mind raced. There had to be a way out. Had to be something he could do. But every scenario ended the same way, with Emma in danger, with James winning, with Marcus losing everything again. 30 seconds. Victoria pulled out her phone. I'm calling the police. They won't get here in time, James said. And even if they did, you have no proof, no evidence. Just the word of a disgraced CTO and 2 people who broke into my office without a warrant. 20 seconds. Marcus looked at Victoria, saw the same desperation in her eyes that he felt. They'd been outmaneuvered, outthought. James had been 3 steps ahead the entire time. 10 seconds. Wait, Marcus said. His voice sounded hollow. I'll do it. I'll back off. Just leave Emma alone. James smiled. Smart choice. Now both of you leave your phones on my desk and walk out. I'll know if you try to contact anyone. And Marcus, if I ever see your name associated with cybersecurity again, if you ever try to come after me, the deal's off. You stay invisible, or your daughter pays the price. Marcus placed his phone on the desk. His hands were shaking. He felt Victoria's eyes on him, felt her disappointment, but he couldn't look at her. All he could think about was Emma. They walked out of the office in silence. In the elevator, Victoria finally spoke. We can't just let him win. I don't have a choice. There's always a choice. Not when it's your daughter's life. Marcus's voice broke. I can't lose her, Victoria. She's all I have left. The elevator doors opened. Frank was waiting in the lobby, and the expression on his face made Marcus's stomach drop. What? Victoria demanded. Lauren Chen, Frank said. She's dead. Jumped from the roof of this building 5 minutes ago. Marcus pushed past Frank and ran outside. Police cars were already arriving, sirens cutting through the morning air. A crowd had gathered on the sidewalk, people pointing up at the building phones out recording. And there on the pavement, covered by a white sheet that was slowly turning red, was Lauren Chen. Victoria grabbed his arm. Marcus, we need to leave. Now. She didn't jump, he said. His voice sounded strange, distant. James killed her. We don't know that. I know it. She was a loose end, a witness. He couldn't let her talk. Marcus turned to look at Victoria, and something in his expression made her step back. This is what he does. He eliminates problems, and now he's going to come after Emma. Your security team is with her. She's safe. Marcus pulled out his phone, then remembered he'd left it in James's office. I need to call the school. I need to make sure. Victoria handed him hers. His fingers were shaking so badly it took 3 tries to dial Thomas's number. It rang 4 times before the guard answered. Mr. Hayes, is Emma okay? Tell me she's okay. She's fine, sir. Still in class. Nothing's happened. Marcus sagged against the building wall. Don't let her out of your sight, not for a second. I won't. You have my word. He hung up and handed the phone back to Victoria. Around them, more police were arriving. A detective was trying to get statements from witnesses. Frank was talking to someone in a suit, probably explaining why he'd been following Lauren. We need to tell them, Victoria said. Tell them about James, about what he's doing. And say what? That he threatened us, that we think he killed Lauren. Marcus shook his head. We have no proof, no evidence, just like he said. And if we try to implicate him, if we draw police attention, he'll activate whatever plan he has for Emma. I can't risk that. So we just walk away, let him win. Marcus looked at the sheet covering Lauren's body. 20 minutes ago, she'd been alive, apologizing, resigned to whatever fate awaited her. Now she was gone, erased, like she'd never mattered. That's what James did to people who got in his way. That's what he'd do to Emma if Marcus didn't back down. Yes, he said quietly. We walk away. They drove back to Sterling Global in silence. Marcus stared out the window, watching the city pass by in a blur. People going about their lives completely unaware that a woman had just been murdered, that a little girl was in danger, that everything Marcus had worked for in the past 48 hours was falling apart. At the office, David, Sarah, and Robert were waiting in the conference room. They looked excited, energized, ready to celebrate catching James. Then they saw Marcus's face. What happened? David asked. Victoria told them. About James, about the threats, about Lauren. By the time she finished, the room was silent, except for the hum of the air conditioning. So that's it, Sarah said. Her voice was small, disbelieving. We just give up. We don't have a choice, Marcus said. There's always a choice. Not when it costs a child her life. He stood up. I'm sorry. I thought I could do this. Thought I could come back, make a difference. But I was wrong. James was right about one thing. I should have stayed invisible. Marcus, wait. Victoria started, but he was already walking out. He went straight to the 73rd floor to his new office that he'd barely used. The nameplate on the door read, Marcus Hayes, Director of Cybersecurity. He stared at it for a long moment, then went inside and started packing the few personal items he'd brought: a photo of Emma, a coffee mug, his old Fortress digital ID badge that he'd kept all these years as a reminder of who he used to be. Victoria appeared in the doorway. "What are you doing?" "What I should have done from the beginning. Going back to being nobody." "You're not nobody. To James I am. To the world I am. And that's how it needs to stay." Marcus put the photo in his bag. "I'm sorry, Victoria. I'm sorry I couldn't finish this. I'm sorry I let you down." "You didn't let me down. You saved my life. You saved my company. And now I'm putting you at risk by being here. James made it clear if I stay in this world, if I keep trying to fight him, Emma pays the price." His voice cracked. "I can't lose my daughter. She's all I have left of Sarah. All I have left of everything good in my life. I won't sacrifice her for my ego." Victoria closed the door behind her. When she spoke, her voice was low and tense. "I'm going to tell you something I've never told anyone. The night you found me with that gun. That wasn't the first time I'd thought about it. 3 years ago, after my mother died, after I realized I'd spent her entire last year ignoring her calls because I was too busy building my empire, I stood on my balcony and seriously considered jumping. You know what stopped me?" Marcus looked at her. "Cowardice. Pure, simple cowardice. I was too afraid of the pain, too afraid of failure, too afraid of what people would say. So I went back inside and kept building and kept pretending I was fine. But I wasn't fine. I was hollow. Empty. Just going through the motions of a life that didn't mean anything." She stepped closer. "Then you walked into my office. You, a janitor I'd walked past 100 times without seeing. And you stopped me. Not because you knew me or cared about my company or wanted something from me. You stopped me because it was the right thing to do. Because in that moment, you saw me as a person who needed help." "Victoria, I'm not finished. For 2 days, you've been more alive than I've seen anyone in years. You've been doing work that matters, protecting people, fighting for something bigger than yourself. And yes, it's dangerous. Yes, James is threatening your daughter. But if you walk away now, if you go back to being invisible, you're not protecting Emma. You're teaching her that when things get hard, you give up. Is that really the lesson you want her to learn?" Marcus felt tears burning behind his eyes. "I'm not strong enough for this. You're the strongest person I've ever met. You gave up everything for your wife. You rebuilt your life from nothing for your daughter. You saved my company when 40 other people said it was impossible. Don't tell me you're not strong enough." "He'll hurt her. Then we make sure he doesn't get the chance." Victoria pulled out her phone. "I've been thinking about this since we left Canal Street. James is smart, but he made one critical mistake. He assumed we'd roll over, that we'd be too scared to fight back. But he doesn't know something important about me." "What's that?" "I don't respond well to threats." She pressed a button. "Frank, it's me. I need you to pull every piece of information you can find on James Chen. Financial records, property holdings, known associates, everything. And I need it in the next 3 hours." She hung up and looked at Marcus. "We're not backing down. We're going to find James's weakness, and we're going to destroy him before he can touch your daughter." "That's insane." "Probably. But what's the alternative? You spend the rest of your life looking over your shoulder. Emma grows up knowing her father gave up." Victoria's eyes were fierce. "No, we end this. Today." Marcus wanted to argue. Wanted to tell her it was too risky, too dangerous. But looking at her face, seeing that determination, he realized something. Victoria Sterling wasn't just fighting for her company anymore. She was fighting for him, for Emma, for the chance to be the person she'd failed to be for her own mother. "Okay," he said quietly. "Okay. What do we do?" They spent the next hour back in the conference room with David, Sarah, and Robert planning. Frank called with preliminary information. James had properties in 3 states' bank accounts in the Cayman Islands and a pattern of moving money through shell corporations. He was careful, methodical, but not invisible. "He's got a weakness," David said, studying the financial reports. "Look at this. Every month there's a transfer of exactly $50,000 to an account in Vermont. It's been going on for 5 years, never varies, never stops." "Family," Sarah suggested. "James doesn't have family," Marcus said. "His parents died when he was young. He was an only child. That's part of what made us close at Fortress. We were both loners." Robert pulled up property records. "There's a house in Vermont, registered to a Jennifer Morrison. Small town called Stowe. Does that name mean anything?" Marcus thought back, searching his memory. Jennifer Morrison. Jennifer Morrison. Then it clicked. Jenny. His girlfriend from Fortress. I only met her once at a company party. She was quiet, worked in accounting. I didn't know they were still together. "If he's sending her money every month, they are," Victoria said. "And if she matters to him, she's our leverage." "We can't threaten an innocent woman," Marcus protested. "We're not going to threaten her. We're going to talk to her. Tell her what James is really doing. If she has any conscience at all, she'll help us." Marcus looked around the table. These people, Victoria, David, Sarah, Robert, they barely knew him. He'd been part of their world for less than 3 days, but they were willing to risk everything to help him to stop James, to protect Emma. "Okay," he said. "Let's do it." Victoria made arrangements. She chartered a helicopter, faster than driving, less conspicuous than flying commercial. They'd leave immediately, be in Vermont by early afternoon, back in the city, before Emma got out of school. Frank would stay behind to coordinate security. Patricia Whitmore, the lawyer, would be on standby in case they needed legal cover. Marcus called Thomas again before they left. "Any problems?" "None, sir. Emma's doing great. Had lunch, now she's in art class. She drew you a picture, looks like a rocket ship. Tell her I can't wait to see it." "Will do." The helicopter was waiting on the roof of Sterling Global. Marcus had never been in one before. The noise was deafening, the sensation of lifting off surreal. Victoria sat beside him, headset on, looking out at the city falling away beneath them. "Thank you," he said through the headset microphone, "for doing this. Thank me when it's over." They flew north, following the Hudson River. The city gave way to suburbs, then to forests and mountains. Marcus tried not to think about Emma, tried not to imagine what James might be planning. Instead, he focused on what he'd say to Jennifer Morrison, how he'd convince her that the man she loved was a monster. They landed in a field outside Stowe 2 hours later. A rental car was waiting, arranged by Victoria's assistant. The drive to Jennifer's house took another 20 minutes through winding mountain roads. The house was small, modest, surrounded by pine trees. A Honda Civic sat in the driveway. Smoke drifted from the chimney. It looked peaceful, safe, completely disconnected from the world of corporate espionage and murder that James inhabited. Victoria knocked on the door. After a moment, it opened. Jennifer Morrison was younger than Marcus expected, maybe 35, with light brown hair and tired eyes. She wore jeans and a sweater, no makeup. When she saw them, her expression didn't change, like she'd been expecting visitors. "You're here about James," she said. Marcus and Victoria exchanged glances. "Yes." "Come in." The interior was cozy, warm. Books lined the shelves. A cat slept on the couch. Jennifer gestured for them to sit, then remained standing by the fireplace. "How much do you know?" Victoria asked. "Enough. I know what he does. What he's done." Jennifer's voice was flat, exhausted. "I've known for years." "Then why stay with him?" Marcus asked. "Because I love him. And because I'm dying." She said it matter-of-factly, like commenting on the weather. "Stage 3 ovarian cancer. Started 2 years ago. The treatments are expensive, more expensive than my insurance covers. James has been paying for everything. The $50,000 a month. That's for my medical bills." Marcus felt something twist in his chest. "Jennifer, don't Don't pity me. I made my choice. I chose to stay with a man I knew was doing terrible things because he was the only person willing to save my life. She sat down heavily. What do you want from me? Victoria leaned forward. James is threatening a 7-year-old girl. He killed a woman this morning to cover his tracks. We need to stop him, but we need evidence. Something concrete that proves what he's been doing. And you think I'll betray him? We think you'll do the right thing. Jennifer laughed bitterly. The right thing. Do you know what the right thing cost Marcus here? His wife died because he chose to be with her instead of working. He lost his career, his money, everything. The right thing has a price. Ms. Sterling, are you willing to pay it? Yes, Victoria said without hesitation. Jennifer studied her for a long moment, then stood and walked to a bookshelf. She pulled down a leather journal and handed it to Marcus. James keeps records. Every job, every client, every transaction. He's meticulous that way. This is a copy. The original is in a safe deposit box in New York. She paused. If I give this to you, if I testify against him, he goes to prison. And I lose the only person who cares whether I live or die. Marcus opened the journal. Pages and pages of handwritten notes, dates, names, amounts. It was everything they needed. Everything that would destroy James Chen. Why are you helping us? He asked. Because this morning James called me. Told me he'd had to eliminate a problem. Told me it was necessary, that she was going to expose him. And for the first time in 5 years I heard something in his voice that scared me. Jennifer's eyes were wet. He enjoyed it. Enjoyed pushing that woman off the roof. I realized I've been lying to myself, telling myself he's still the man I fell in love with. But that man is gone. What's left is someone who kills without remorse. She pulled out her phone, fingers shaking. There's more. James has been recording his conversations with clients. Insurance, he called it. If anyone ever tried to double-cross him, he'd have leverage. The recordings are on a server in his office. I have the access codes. Victoria took the phone, downloaded the information. This is enough. More than enough. We can take this to the FBI, have him arrested. And then what happens to me? Jennifer asked quietly. When the money stops coming, when I can't afford treatments anymore. Marcus looked at Victoria. She didn't hesitate. I'll cover your medical expenses, all of them, for as long as you need. Why would you do that? Because someone once told me that the right thing has a price, but it's a price worth paying. Victoria stood. We need to go. The FBI will want to talk to you. Are you ready for that? Jennifer nodded slowly. Yeah, I think I am. They flew back to the city with the journal and the access codes. On the helicopter, Victoria called Patricia Whitmore and gave her everything. By the time they landed, the lawyer had already contacted the FBI's cybercrime division and arranged a meeting. Marcus checked his phone. 3 missed calls from Thomas. His heart stopped. What's wrong? Victoria asked. He called back. Thomas answered immediately. Mr. Hayes, thank God. There was an incident at the school. What kind of incident? A man tried to approach Emma during recess. Said he was your brother, that there was a family emergency. The teachers knew something was wrong. You'd flagged her file that only authorized individuals could pick her up. They stopped him, called us. We have him in custody. Marcus's legs nearly gave out. Is Emma okay? She's fine. Scared, but fine. The man's not talking, but we ran his photo through facial recognition. His name is Derek Walsh. He works for Apex Dynamics. James sent him. Marcus felt rage building in his chest, hot and sharp. He sent someone after my daughter. Victoria grabbed his arm. Where are you now? Sterling Global, with Emma. I brought her here after the incident. Figured it was safer than the school. They landed on the roof. Marcus ran for the elevators, Victoria right behind him. His hands were shaking, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might burst. Emma was okay. She was safe. But James had tried, had actually sent someone to take his daughter. The conference room door opened, and Emma flew into his arms. Daddy! He held her so tight she squeaked. "I'm here, princess. I'm here. There was a scary man at school. He said you sent him, but I knew you didn't because you always tell me when someone's picking me up." Her voice was muffled against his shoulder. "Was I good? Did I do the right thing?" "You did perfect, baby. So perfect." Marcus pulled back to look at her face. She had Sarah's eyes, his chin, and a strength that came from somewhere deeper than genetics. "I'm so proud of you." Thomas stepped forward. "Sir, we have Derek Walsh in a secure room on the 65th floor. He's demanding a lawyer." But before he stopped talking, he said something interesting. "What?" He said, "Chen's going to kill me for failing." Exact words. Marcus looked at Victoria. This was it. Proof that James had ordered the kidnapping. Combined with Jennifer's journal and the recordings, they had enough to put him away for life. "Call the FBI," Victoria said. "Tell them we have a witness to an attempted abduction who's willing to implicate James Chen in multiple felonies." Patricia Whitmore arrived 30 minutes later with 2 FBI agents, a man and a woman, both carrying themselves with that distinctive federal law enforcement intensity. They listened to everything: the attack on Sterling Global, the threats, Lauren's death, the attempted kidnapping, Jennifer's testimony. They examined the journal, the recordings, Derek Walsh's statement. The male agent, whose name was Reeves, looked at Marcus. "You understand that James Chen is going to lawyer up the second we approach him. This kind of case could take years to prosecute." "I don't care how long it takes," Marcus said. "I want him stopped. He'll probably make bail. Even with the evidence, a judge might, no bail." Victoria's voice was ice. "I'll personally guarantee that every news outlet in the country knows exactly what James Chen did. I'll make him so toxic that no judge will risk the publicity of letting him walk." Agent Reeves raised an eyebrow. "Ms. Sterling, that sounds like a threat." "It's a promise." She didn't blink. "James Chen tried to destroy my company. He murdered my CTO. He threatened a child. I want him in a cell where he belongs, and I will use every resource I have to make that happen." The female agent Rodriguez smiled slightly. "I think we're going to get along just fine." They arrested James Chen at 6:43 p.m. Marcus wasn't there to see it. He was home with Emma reading her the Planet book, trying to act like everything was normal. But Victoria called with updates. James had been at his office, calm as ever, like he didn't have a care in the world. When the agents walked in with handcuffs, he'd smiled. "What did he say?" Marcus asked. "He said, 'Tell Marcus this isn't over. Tell him he just made the biggest mistake of his life.'" Marcus looked at Emma sleeping peacefully in her bed, the stuffed elephant tucked under her arm. "I don't care what he says. He can't hurt us anymore." "Don't underestimate him, Marcus. Men like James, they don't give up. Even from prison, he'll try to... Let him try." Marcus's voice was hard. "I spent 6 years being invisible because I thought that's what would keep Emma safe. But you were right. That's not strength. That's cowardice. James comes after my daughter again. I won't hide. I'll fight. And I'll win." Victoria was quiet for a moment. "You've changed." "No, I just remembered who I used to be." That night, after he was sure Emma was asleep, Marcus went to his laptop and did something he hadn't done in 6 years. He logged into his old Fortress Digital email account, the one he'd abandoned when Sarah got sick. There were thousands of unread messages, most of them automated notifications and spam. But one caught his eye. Subject: "I'm sorry, sender James Chen. Date: 6 years ago, 3 months after Marcus had left." Marcus opened it. "Marcus, I know you won't see this for a while, maybe never. But I need to say it anyway. I'm sorry. Sorry for how I acted when you got promoted. Sorry for making everything a competition. Sorry for not understanding that you were dealing with things more important than work. Sarah's illness. Your daughter. I can't imagine what that's like. You made the right choice leaving. I wish I'd told you that before you left. I wish I'd been a better friend. Take care of yourself. Take care of your family. And if you ever need anything, call me. I'll be there. James." Marcus stared at the screen for a long time. That message had been sent by a man who still had a conscience, who still cared about friendship, who hadn't yet become the monster Marcus had faced today. Somewhere in the past 6 years, James had changed. Or maybe he'd always been capable of darkness, and losing Marcus, losing the one person who'd treated him like a human being instead of a threat, had finally pushed him over the edge. Either way, it didn't matter now. The James who wrote that email was gone. The James who existed today was someone Marcus couldn't save, couldn't help, couldn't forgive. He deleted the message and closed the laptop. 3 weeks passed. James Chen sat in a federal holding facility awaiting trial. His bail denied after Victoria made good on her promise, and every major news outlet ran stories about the attempted kidnapping of a 7-year-old girl. Apex Dynamics was raided. Its servers seized, its employees scattered. The FBI found evidence linking James to 17 different corporate espionage operations spanning 5 years. The charges kept mounting. Marcus should have felt relief, victory. Instead, he felt hollow. He went to work every day at Sterling Global, rebuilt the security infrastructure from the ground up, trained his team to spot threats before they materialized. He picked Emma up from school every afternoon at 3:15, helped her with homework, made dinner, read her stories. On the surface, everything looked perfect. But at night, lying in bed, he couldn't shake the feeling that something was wrong. Victoria noticed. She always noticed. "You're distracted," she said one afternoon. They were in her office reviewing quarterly security reports, but Marcus had read the same paragraph 3 times without absorbing a word. "I'm fine." "You're not. Talk to me." Marcus set down the report. James hasn't said a word since his arrest. Not to his lawyer, not to the FBI, not to anyone. Just sits in his cell silent. So, that's his right. James never shuts up. Ever. When we worked together at Fortress, he'd argue about everything: code structure, lunch orders, what coffee brand to stock in the break room. Silence isn't his style. Maybe prison changed him. Or maybe he's planning something. Marcus stood paced to the window. "I keep waiting for the other shoe to drop. For someone else to come after Emma, for another threat, for something. But there's nothing. Just silence." Victoria came to stand beside him. "You're not going to spend the rest of your life waiting for James to strike back." "How do you know?" "Because I won't let you." She touched his arm. "Marcus, you saved my life. You saved my company. You exposed a criminal operation that destroyed dozens of businesses. You protected your daughter. At some point, you have to accept that you won. It doesn't feel like winning. That's because you're a good person. Good people don't celebrate putting someone in prison even when that person deserves it." She paused. "Have you thought about visiting him?" Marcus turned sharply. "What? James? Have you thought about going to see him?" "Maybe that's what you need: closure. He tried to kidnap my daughter." "I know. But he also used to be your friend. And maybe part of what's eating at you is that you never got to ask him why." Marcus wanted to argue to tell her it was insane, but the truth was, he had thought about it. Late at night, when he couldn't sleep, he'd wondered what he'd say if he could see James one more time. If he could understand how the man who'd written that apologetic email 6 years ago had become someone capable of murder. "I'll think about it," he said finally. That weekend, Emma had a sleepover at her friend Madison's house, the same Madison whose mother had once said Marcus was just a janitor. Things had changed. After the news coverage, after everyone learned that the quiet janitor had been a cybersecurity expert who'd saved Sterling Global and stopped a criminal operation, the other parents at Emma's school looked at him differently. Madison's mother had actually apologized, tears in her eyes, embarrassed by her own prejudice. Marcus dropped Emma off Saturday morning with her backpack and sleeping bag. She hugged him tight. "You're sure you're okay with this?" he asked. "Daddy, I'm 7, not a baby. I can handle one sleepover." "I know. But after everything that happened, That scary man is in jail. You caught him. We're safe now. She looked up at him with those wise eyes. You don't have to worry so much. He kissed her forehead. That's my job, worrying about you. Well, stop it. Go have fun. Maybe take Ms. Victoria out to dinner or something. Marcus felt heat rise to his face. Why would I do that? Emma rolled her eyes in that way only 7-year-olds could. Because you like her, and she likes you, and you both smile differently when you're together. We're just friends. Sure you are. She grabbed her backpack. Bye, Daddy. Madison's mother appeared at the door waving. Marcus waved back, then drove away. Emma's words echoing in his head. You both smile differently when you're together. He went home, sat in the empty apartment, and realized Emma was right. For the first time in 6 years, he was completely alone with nothing to do. No daughter to care for, no crisis to solve, no immediate threat to worry about. Just silence and his own thoughts. His phone buzzed. Victoria, what are you doing tonight? Nothing. Emma's at a sleepover. Good. I'm taking you to dinner, 7 o'clock. Dress nice. Victoria, it's not optional. You've been working yourself into the ground for 3 weeks. You need a break. Her voice softened. Please. Marcus looked around the apartment. The alternative was sitting here alone, thinking about James, thinking about everything that had happened. Okay. Where? I'll pick you up. She arrived at 7 on the dot in her Mercedes, wearing a black dress that made Marcus suddenly very aware that his one good suit was wrinkled. She took one look at him and laughed. You look terrified. I haven't been to a nice restaurant in 7 years. Then it's about time. She smiled. Relax, Marcus. It's just dinner. The restaurant was the kind of place Marcus would never have entered on his own soft lighting white tablecloths prices that made him wince. But Victoria ordered for both of them with easy confidence, and gradually Marcus felt himself relaxing. Thank you, he said after the wine arrived. For this, for everything. You've thanked me about 100 times. Stop. I mean it. You didn't have to do any of this, hire me, protect Emma, go after James. You could have just let me walk away that first night. Victoria took a sip of wine. Do you remember what you said to me when you stopped me from pulling that trigger? I said a lot of things. You said the worst day of my life wasn't the end of my life, that it just felt like it. She met his eyes. You were right. And these past few weeks, watching you work, watching you be a father, watching you fight for what matters, you've reminded me why I built Sterling Global in the first place. Not for money or power or to prove something to my father. I built it because I wanted to create something meaningful. Somewhere along the way, I forgot that. You helped me remember. Marcus didn't know what to say. The weight of her words, the intensity of her gaze, it was too much and not enough at the same time. I should visit James, he said abruptly. You were right. I need closure. Victoria nodded slowly. When? Tomorrow. Before I change my mind. The Federal Holding Facility was in Brooklyn, a gray concrete building that looked like it had given up on hope decades ago. Marcus went through security metal detector ID check pat-down and was led to a visiting room with plastic chairs and bulletproof glass dividers. James appeared 10 minutes later, escorted by 2 guards. He'd lost weight, looked older, harder. Prison orange didn't suit him. He sat down on the other side of the glass and picked up the phone. Marcus did the same. They stared at each other in silence. You came, James finally said. I wasn't sure you would. Neither was I. How's Emma? Don't. Marcus's voice was sharp. Don't pretend you care about my daughter. Not after what you tried to do. James leaned back in his chair. Fair enough. So why are you here? I want to understand. We were friends, James. We worked together for 9 years. I trusted you. And then I find out you've spent the last 6 years becoming a criminal. What happened to you? What happened? James laughed, but there was no humor in it. You happened, Marcus. You got that promotion, and I realized something. No matter how good I was, no matter how hard I worked, I'd always be second to people like you. People who were likable, who played the game, who made management feel comfortable. So you decided to destroy people's lives. I decided to take what I deserved, and it worked. For 5 years I made more money than I ever would have at Fortress. Had power, respect, fear. Everything I wanted. And it made you happy. The question seemed to catch James off guard. He was quiet for a moment. No, but happiness is overrated. Success, power, control, those matter. Those last. Marcus shook his head. You're wrong. I spent 6 years with none of those things. I was a janitor, James. I mopped floors and scrubbed toilets and barely made enough to feed my daughter. And you know what, I was more at peace than I'd ever been at Fortress. Because I knew what mattered. Knew who I was fighting for. Your daughter? Yeah, my daughter. The one you tried to kidnap. James's expression flickered something that might have been guilt or regret gone too fast to identify. I wasn't going to hurt her. I just needed leverage. You sent a man to take a 7-year-old from her school. What did you think was going to happen? I thought you'd back down. Thought you'd choose Emma over stopping me. You always were the type to sacrifice yourself for others. James leaned forward. But you didn't back down. You chose to fight, and now I'm here and you're out there, and I guess that makes you the winner. This isn't about winning. Everything is about winning, Marcus. That's what you never understood. Every relationship, every job, every decision, there's always a winner and a loser. You won. I lost. Story over. Marcus looked at the man across from him and realized something. The James he'd known at Fortress was gone. Maybe had never really existed. That person who'd written the apologetic email, who'd shown flickers of humanity, had been buried under years of bitterness and resentment until nothing good remained. I forgive you, Marcus said quietly. James blinked. What? I forgive you, for everything. The attacks, the threats, what you tried to do to Emma. All of it. I don't want your forgiveness. I'm not giving it for you. I'm giving it for me. Because holding on to anger, onto hate, that's its own kind of prison. And I'm not going to spend the rest of my life trapped by what you did. Marcus stood up. Goodbye, James. I hope you find whatever it is you're looking for. He hung up the phone and walked away. Behind him, James was saying something, shouting maybe, but Marcus didn't turn around. He'd said what he needed to say. The rest was just noise. Outside, the sun was shining. Marcus stood on the sidewalk and called Victoria. How did it go? She asked. It went. He took a deep breath. I'm done with James Chen. Done looking over my shoulder, done waiting for the next attack. It's over. Good. Come back to the office. There's something I want to show you. When Marcus arrived at Sterling Global, Victoria led him to the 72nd floor, a space he'd never been to before. The entire floor had been renovated, transformed into something that looked more like a community center than an office. What is this? The Second Chance Initiative. Victoria gestured around the space. Remember how you told me I'd built an empire but forgotten the people? I've been thinking about that. About all the people like you, talented, capable, but overlooked because of circumstances beyond their control. So I'm starting a program. She led him through the space, explaining as they walked. The initiative would identify people who'd been forced out of their careers due to illness, caregiving, or other life circumstances. Sterling Global would hire them, retrain them if needed, and give them flexible schedules that allowed them to balance work and life. It's not charity, Victoria said. It's recognizing that the best talent isn't always in the obvious places. Sometimes it's pushing a mop cart, or working as a barista, or driving an Uber. And if we look past our prejudices, if we actually see people, we might find something extraordinary. Marcus felt his throat tighten. This is because of me. This is because of what you taught me, that everyone deserves to be seen. She pulled out a folder. I want you to run it, the whole program. You'll still be director of cybersecurity, but this will be your primary focus, finding people who need a second chance and giving it to them. Victoria, I don't know if I'm qualified. You're the most qualified person I know. You've lived it. You understand what it's like to be invisible, to be written off, to have doors slammed in your face. Who better to help others in that situation? Marcus looked around the space, the new computers, the training rooms, the child care center Victoria had included, so parents wouldn't have to worry about their kids. It was everything he'd needed 6 years ago and never found. Okay, he said. Okay, I'll do it. Victoria smiled, that real smile he'd only seen a handful of times. Good, because I already have 20 applications waiting. Over the next 3 months, the Second Chance Initiative grew. Marcus hired a former teacher who'd left the profession to care for her disabled husband, a software engineer who'd been homeless after his company went bankrupt, a graphic designer who'd spent 5 years battling addiction and couldn't get anyone to look past his record. Each of them had a story. Each of them deserved a chance. And watching them succeed, watching them rebuild their lives, Marcus finally understood what Victoria had meant that night in her office. This was what mattered. Not the money or the title or the recognition. The chance to help people who'd been knocked down get back up. Emma loved it. She'd come to the office after school, sometimes do her homework in the childcare center, talk to the other kids whose parents were working late. One afternoon, Marcus found her having a serious conversation with Robert Walsh's 8-year-old daughter about whether Mars could support human life. She's good with people, Victoria said, appearing beside him. Like her father. She gets that from her mother. Sarah was the one who could talk to anyone. I wish I could have met her. She would have liked you. She always said I needed someone who'd call me on my bullshit. Marcus smiled. You do that pretty well. Victoria laughed. It's a gift. They stood there watching Emma and Marcus realize something. He was happy. Not the desperate, clinging happiness of someone afraid it might disappear. Real, solid, grounded happiness. The kind built on purpose and connection and knowing you were exactly where you were supposed to be. Thank you, he said, for seeing me. That first night when I was just a janitor. You could have told me to leave, but you didn't. You saw me. Victoria turned to look at him. You saved my life, Marcus. Not just by stopping me from pulling that trigger. You saved me from becoming someone I didn't want to be. Someone so focused on success that I forgot what success was supposed to be for. And what's it for? This. She gestured around them. Building something that matters, helping people, making the world a little bit better than we found it. She paused. And maybe if we're lucky, finding someone to share it with. Marcus's heart was pounding. Victoria. I know this might be too fast. I know we've only known each other a few months, but I need to tell you something. She took a breath. I'm falling in love with you, Marcus Hayes. With your strength and your kindness and the way you put your daughter first, no matter what. And I understand if you're not ready for that, if you're still grieving Sarah, if... Marcus kissed her. It wasn't smooth or practiced. He was out of practice and nervous, and pretty sure he was doing it wrong. But Victoria kissed him back, and in that moment, everything else fell away. When they broke apart, she was smiling. So I guess that's a yes. That's a yes. Emma appeared beside them, grinning. Finally, I thought you two were never going to figure it out. Marcus felt his face flush. How long have you been standing there? Long enough. She looked at Victoria. Does this mean you're going to be around more? Victoria knelt down to Emma's eye level. Would that be okay with you? Emma pretended to think about it. I guess so. As long as you're nice to my dad. And as long as you help me with my science project. It's about Venus, and I need someone who knows about business stuff. Victoria looked confused. What does Venus have to do with business? Nothing yet, But I'm going to be the first person to build a hotel there when I grow up. I need to start planning now." Victoria laughed and pulled Emma into a hug. "I think we're going to get along just fine." 6 months later, Marcus stood in the conference room on the 72nd floor, looking at 40 people who'd been given a second chance. The program had exceeded every expectation. Sterling Global's productivity was up. Employee satisfaction had skyrocketed, and other companies were calling Victoria asking how to implement similar initiatives. But the real success was in the faces looking back at him. People who'd been invisible now being seen. People who'd been written off now thriving. People who'd lost everything now rebuilding their lives one day at a time. "I want to tell you a story," Marcus began. 8 months ago, I was a janitor in this building. I'd lost my wife to cancer, lost my career, lost everything except my daughter. I thought my life was over. Thought the best I could hope for was survival. He paused, looked at Victoria sitting in the front row, Emma beside her. Then one night, I walked past an office and heard someone in pain. I could have kept walking. Should have kept walking. It wasn't my business. But I didn't. I stopped. And that choice changed everything. The room was silent, attentive. I'm not telling you this to brag or to make myself sound heroic. I'm telling you because every single person in this room has made a similar choice. You chose to keep going when things got hard. Chose to ask for help when you needed it. Chose to believe that your story wasn't over even when everyone else had written you off. And that choice, that refusal to give up, that's what brought you here. He looked around the room, making eye contact with as many people as he could. This program isn't about charity. It's about recognition. Recognition that talent and worth aren't defined by job titles or resumes. That the person mopping floors might be a brilliant programmer. That the barista at your coffee shop might be an incredible teacher. That the people we overlook every day might be exactly the people we need most. Marcus's voice got quieter. 6 years ago, my wife made me promise something. She said, "Don't let them make you invisible. Don't let them convince you that you don't matter, because you do. You matter more than you know." I didn't understand what she meant at the time, but I understand now. He looked at Emma, who was watching him with pride shining in her eyes. You matter, every single one of you. Not because of what you do, or how much you earn, or what title is on your business card. You matter because you're here, because you kept fighting, because you refused to let circumstances define your worth. And I'm honored, truly honored, to work with all of you. The room erupted in applause. People were standing, some crying, others grinning. Victoria was wiping her eyes. Emma ran up and hugged him tight. "That was really good, Daddy." "Thanks, Princess." After the meeting, after everyone had gone home, Marcus stood alone in the conference room. The sun was setting over Manhattan, painting the buildings in gold and crimson. 8 months ago, he'd stood in almost this exact spot, invisible in his janitor's uniform, wondering if he'd ever be anything more. Now he was. His phone buzzed. A text from Agent Reeves. "Thought you'd want to know. James Chen pled guilty to all charges this morning. Life sentence, no possibility of parole. It's over." Marcus read the message 3 times. It's over. James would spend the rest of his life in prison. The man who'd been his friend, his rival, his tormentor gone. Not dead, but gone from Marcus's life in every way that mattered. He should have felt triumph, relief, something. Instead, he just felt tired. Another text appeared. "Victoria. Come upstairs, roof." Marcus took the elevator to the top floor, then climbed the stairs to the roof access. Victoria was standing at the edge looking out over the city. She'd changed out of her work clothes into jeans and a sweater, her hair loose around her shoulders. "Hey," he said. She turned, smiled. "Hey yourself. I heard about James." "Yeah. How do you feel?" Marcus moved to stand beside her. "I don't know. Empty, I guess. He was such a big part of my life, first as a friend, then as a threat, and now he's just gone. Part of me feels like I should feel more. You forgave him. That's why you feel empty instead of angry. Victoria took his hand. Forgiveness doesn't mean what he did was okay. It just means you're not letting it poison you anymore. Sarah used to say that anger was like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. She was wise. Yeah, she was. Marcus squeezed Victoria's hand. I wish you could have met her. Wish she could have met Emma now, seen the person she's becoming. Wish she could see that I'm okay. I think she knows. Wherever she is, I think she knows you kept your promise. You protected Emma. You didn't let the world make you invisible. You fought for what mattered. Victoria turned to face him fully. And Marcus, I think she'd be proud of you. I know I am. Marcus pulled her close, held her tight. The city stretched out below them, millions of people living their lives completely unaware of the small miracles happening every day. People being seen. People being saved. People refusing to give up. I love you, he said. The words felt strange, unfamiliar. He hadn't said them to anyone except Emma since Sarah died. But they felt right. Victoria pulled back to look at him, eyes shining. I love you too. They kissed as the sun set over Manhattan, two people who'd both been lost, finding their way home in each other. Later that night, Marcus tucked Emma into bed. She was exhausted from the day, eyes already drooping before he'd finished the first chapter of her book. Daddy, she mumbled. Are you happy? Yeah, princess, I am. Good. You deserve to be happy. You and Miss Victoria both. She yawned. Mom would have liked her, I think. Marcus's throat tightened. You think so? Yeah. Mom always said you needed someone who was smart and strong and wouldn't let you be sad all the time. Ms. Victoria is all those things. Emma's eyes opened slightly. Is it okay that I think that mom would like her? It's more than okay, baby. It's perfect. Emma smiled and closed her eyes. Within minutes she was asleep, the stuffed elephant clutched against her chest. Marcus sat there watching her breathe, this little person who'd been his reason for everything. His reason to keep going when Sarah died. His reason to take that janitor job. His reason to walk into Victoria's office that night instead of ignoring the sound of someone in pain. His phone buzzed softly. A text from Victoria. Dinner tomorrow. The three of us. Emma mentioned wanting to try that new Italian place. Marcus smiled and typed back, She's been talking about it for weeks, 7 o'clock. Perfect. Good night, Marcus. I love you. I love you too. He turned off the light and stood in Emma's doorway one last time, remembering the night Sarah died, the promise he'd made, the years of struggle and invisibility that followed. It had all led to this moment. To Emma sleeping peacefully. To Victoria in his life. To work that mattered. To being seen. The billionaire had lost everything. The janitor had saved her. And in the process, they'd both found something neither of them had been looking for: a second chance at life, at love, at mattering. Marcus closed Emma's door softly and walked to his own room. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new people who needed help, new chances to make a difference. But tonight, for the first time in 8 years, Marcus Hayes went to sleep truly happy. And in the morning, when Emma came running into his room asking what he wanted for breakfast, when Victoria texted good morning with a coffee emoji, when he looked out the window and saw the sun rising over Queens, Marcus realized something profound. He'd spent so long being invisible that he'd forgotten what it felt like to be truly seen, to be known, to be loved not for what he could do or what he could provide, but simply for being himself. That was the real miracle, not the second chance at his career, not the money or the success or the recognition. The miracle was being seen, being valued, being enough exactly as he was. And for Marcus Hayes, former janitor, current director of cybersecurity, and Second Chance Initiative, father to Emma and partner to Victoria. That was everything he'd ever needed.